Welcome to today's deep dive. So we are examining a piece called The Unfinished Rhythm of Trump and Young. And, the mission here is to explore this surprisingly forgotten 1990s New York City romance between Donald Trump and model Cara Young.
Right. It is definitely a piece of history that slipped through the cracks.
Yeah, completely. Think of a heavy metal album full of screaming guitars. And then right at the very end, there is a hidden, gentle acoustic track.
Oh, I love that analogy.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is essentially what this relationship was. It was this stripped-down melody buried beneath the blaring headlines of high society power dynamics.
And to understand that acoustic track, you really have to look at the environment where it was recorded.
Mhm.
I mean, 1990s New York was an era completely defined by extreme excess and, constant exposure.
Oh, absolutely. The chaos was everywhere.
Right. And you had Trump, whose entire brand was built on dominating that chaotic spotlight.
Yep.
And he ends up crossing paths with someone who represented a completely different frequency.
Yeah, because the sources paint Cara Young as, well, deeply grounded. Like she was immersed in fashion and creativity, and she really prioritized privacy and calm.
Exactly, which is the total opposite of the tabloid frenzy.
Right. So, how do two people operating on completely different wavelengths even sync up in the first place? I mean, it feels like it has to be the psychological appeal of having a safe haven.
Well, the sources point directly to that exact mechanism. For someone whose daily life is a performative battleground, a partner who offers zero public drama is not just attractive, it is a necessary psychological retreat.
Wow, a retreat. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, their connection was built in these subtle, unpublicized pockets at high society events, places where their lives briefly intersected without the cameras. They weren't using each other to feed the tabloids.
But a retreat is only a temporary vacation, right?
Yeah.
You eventually have to go back to your baseline reality.
For sure, you can't hide forever.
Exactly. When you introduce the friction of daily life, one person needs the cameras to survive, and the other views those same cameras as an intrusion.
Right, it becomes this fundamental clash.
I mean, it is not just two different personalities. It is like trying to run two different operating systems on the exact same computer. Eventually, the hardware is going to crash.
That is a great way to put it.
Yeah.
But that crash was not caused by a lack of affection, which is the crucial distinction here.
Wait, really? So they still cared about each other?
Yes, the source material emphasizes a fundamental mismatch of lifestyle mechanics. Trump's reality required him to constantly feed the media machine, and Young's reality required protecting her creative space. So that external pressure fractured their internal dynamic.
I have to say, I am struggling to buy this idea that the relationship just naturally evaporated without friction. Look at the figures involved here.
Well, it sounds counterintuitive, I know.
Right, because celebrity breakups in the 90s were famously explosive. Are we really supposed to believe two high-profile people navigating that much media pressure just drifted apart into silence without a dramatic breaking point?
Actually, that lack of an explosion is exactly why this story stands out in the sources.
Yeah.
There was no tabloid war or bitter public fallout at all.
That is so rare for that era.
It really is. The distance grew purely from a lack of mutual understanding of how to actually merge their lives. It was just an accumulation of misconnections, fewer shared moments, and less synchronization.
So they just kind of faded out until the public simply forgot to ask about them.
Exactly. They each retreated into their native environments to forge their own paths.
So the lack of a spectacular crash actually leaves a heavier psychological mark, right? Because a massive fight gives you closure. You know exactly why the connection was severed.
Yes, and the climax of the source material rests on that exact premise. The most profound emotional resonance often comes from what remains unresolved.
Because they didn't destroy each other on the way out, the reality of what they shared stayed intact.
Right, they weren't a forever story, but that lack of closure left a permanent imprint.
Not every story is meant to be a permanent fixture. I mean, some exist just to shift your trajectory. This relationship survives only in fragments, like a hidden track that eventually just stopped playing.
It really prompts a look inward, doesn't it? The relationships or chapters in your own life that lack a neat, tied-up ending are frequently the ones occupying the most mental real estate.
They really are. Which leaves us with a lingering thought to chew on long after you finish listening to this deep dive.
Oh, I love a good lingering thought.
If our most enduring memories are often the connections that fade away without an explanation, does human nature actually prefer the romantic mystery of what could have been over a neatly resolved ending?